Americans, especially Republicans, have become even more sympathetic to Trump and the January 6th rioters as the years have gone by. And that's according to a follow-up poll done by the Washington Post and the University of Maryland. Now, about 2 years ago, in December of 2021, the Washington Post and University of Maryland had polled Americans on how they felt about January 6th and the Capitol riot. Last month, they asked the same questions to see how public opinion has shifted, if it's shifted at all. Now, we'll discuss what's behind the change in just a moment, but for now, here's what the survey found. In 2021, a startlingly high amount of Americans actually believed that Biden was not the legitimate winner of the election. But that number has only grown since then. So let's take a look at the graph and I'll explain what you're looking at and what the results are. So in late 2021, 69% of Americans believed that Biden was legitimately elected. But that number fell to 62% in late 2023. And that change happened across all political affiliations. For Republicans, the number fell from 39% to 31%. For independents, it fell from 72% to 66%. And in late 2023, 91% of Democrats believed that Biden's election was legitimate, which of course is a massive majority, but still, that number even fell 3 percentage points from 94% in late 2021. That's amazing. Now, the survey also asked how much responsibility lies on Donald Trump specifically for the riots that occurred on January 6th. Let's take a look at the graph and we'll look at the differences. In late 2021, 60% of Americans put the blame on Trump. Again, that number has fallen, this time to 53% in late 2023. Independents have hardly budged on the issue, moving just 1 percentage point over the years from 57% to 56%. But for Democrats, that number has actually fallen quite a bit, from 92% to 86%. No, I gotta pause for comment. Cenk, what say you? What say you? These are Democrats.
So look, we've talked hundreds of times about how this is the fault of the Republican Party for pushing this lie. But we also have to acknowledge that there's a fault here for the Democratic Party. So I'm going to explain that. So first though, I'm stunned by these numbers. And I've been talking about this for a long time. I've been telling you that it's coming and here it is, right? But even so, only 62% of the country thinks that Joe Biden actually won the last election. That means nearly 4 in 10 Americans actually believe that Trump won the election, but it was stolen away from him. Do you understand how dangerous that lie is?
It's pretty scary, yeah.
It's super scary. Now look at the numbers. Only 31% of Republicans, 7 out of 10 Republicans believe that Donald Trump actually won the election and that Joe Biden gets some sort of mafia-like move to steal the election. They think that democracy is already stolen by Joe Biden. Imagine how angry they are, right? And then independents, Jesus Christ, only 2/3 of independents now think that Joe Biden won legitimately. A whole third of independents think, oh no, he didn't win. No, it was all fraud, okay? So now, Donald Trump started this lie. The Republican Party and right-wing media aided and abetted it 200%, got sued for it, had to pay hundreds of millions of dollars because they're liars, etc. But we've been over that thousands of times, okay? Now the Democratic Party, why are they at fault? I mean, they're even losing their own supporters here, why? Because they never make a case clearly. So who's the leader of the Democratic Party right now? Joe Biden, right? So why hasn't Joe Biden ever come out and said, hey guys, look, he should have done this right from the get-go, from day one. I want to be super clear. Donald Trump went to court 60 times and then have like graphs and presentation made. This is the amount of evidence he showed, 0. Like, you might know that because you watch the Young Turks. But if you watch right-wing media or even mainstream media, how many times did they say that he lost 60 cases in a row and presented 0 evidence? Not that many. I bet you an overwhelming majority of the American people do not know that fact. That fact is critical. It's critical. The fake elector plot, they talked a million times about the guys who broke into the building on January 6th.
Yeah,
the fake elector plot, they just started to talk about after the criminal cases began. Whereas I've been screaming my head off about the fake elector plot from day one, because that shows you it was a real coup attempt. But did Joe Biden ever explain that clearly to the American people? Never, never. If you don't make your own case, these are the numbers you're gonna get.
I think a lot of Americans are also kind of like lashing out at the Biden administration because the Biden administration hasn't been particularly great in some areas. They want to retaliate for inflation. They want to retaliate for, in their minds, their quality of life declining under his leadership and under his watch. The other thing that really stood out to me is how public opinion has kind of changed in regard to the violence that was carried out on January 6th. So for instance, only half of Americans now believe that the protesters were mostly violent, which is down from 54% in 2021. That change is mostly entirely driven by Republicans. 2 years ago, it was 26% of them who thought that the protesters were mostly violent. Now only 18% do. I'm speculating here, I don't know for sure, but I think what's behind that is the fact that there have been some of the people who have been prosecuted for just being there, but didn't necessarily engage in anything violent. They've been prosecuted pretty harshly. And I think that people are getting turned off by that, and that might be part of it.
Last people to blame is mainstream media, because what they do is they always protect the powerful, always take it out on the powerless. So if you're a low-level guy who went inside the building, they're gonna crush you. And media is gonna show you the video of the violence, etc., which is definitely real, okay? And they're gonna say they're the ones at fault. But if you organized it, for 2.5 years, they sat on their hands and did nothing about Trump or Giuliani or any of the other organizers. Why? Because they're among the elites. And that kind of hypocrisy is what drives Republicans crazy. And now a lot of independents as well. And it goes unaddressed because the people that are doing it are the ones that are giving you the news in the first place, mainstream media. And so the powerful have really screwed themselves here because the country doesn't understand there really was a coup attempt. And that's because it was presented to them in all of the wrong ways by the Republicans, Democrats, and the media.
Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this ad. Still, hit the join button below.